Steve Jobs' life isn't just the story of a businessman who built a company. It's the story of a boy who was abandoned at birth, who struggled, who failed, who was even rejected by his own company, and yet came back stronger than ever to change the world. His journey is about vision, passion, pain, resilience, and the courage to dream when nobody else could see what he saw. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco. His biological parents were young graduate students who felt they couldn't raise him, so they gave him up for adoption. Paul and Clara Jobs, a working-class couple, welcomed him as their own. Steve grew up knowing he was adopted, but instead of feeling unwanted, he carried a sense that he was chosen. That belief gave him confidence, but also a curiosity about the world that never left him. Paul and Clara promised they'd send him to college one day. They weren't wealthy, but they wanted Steve to have opportunities they never had. As a kid, he wasn't a straight-A student. In fact, he often got bored in class. But when something captured his attention, he'd dive in completely. While other kids were out playing ball, Steve could spend hours taking apart electronics, studying how they worked, and putting them back together. That curiosity became the spark of his genius. In high school, Steve met Steve Wozniak, was a quiet, brilliant engineer who loved electronics just as much. Jobs was bold and persuasive, Woz was technical and introverted. Together, they made an unlikely but perfect pair. That friendship would eventually change the world. Jobs later enrolled at Reed College in Oregon, but he didn't last long. After just one semester, he dropped out. He didn't want his parents spending their life savings on classes that didn't inspire him. He slept on friends' floors, returned Coke bottles for spare change, and walked across town once a week just to get a free meal at a Hare Krishna temple. But this time wasn't wasted. He sat in on courses he actually loved, like calligraphy. At the time, it seemed impractical, even useless. But years later, those lessons in typography shaped the elegant fonts on the very first Macintosh computer. Steve would later tell graduates at Stanford, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward." In 1976, in a small garage in Los Altos, California, Jobs and Wozniak started Apple. With hardly any money, they built the Apple I computer. Jobs wasn't an engineer, but he was a visionary. He could see the future, personal computers in every home. Their Apple II became a massive success. It was one of the first widely successful personal computers, and it turned Apple into one of the fastest-growing companies in history. Steve was only in his 20s and already a millionaire. Only in his 20s and already a millionaire. But success didn't come without friction. Jobs was a perfectionist. He drove his employees hard, sometimes too hard. He was demanding, obsessive, and often tough to work with. But he was fueled by one unshakable belief: we have to make something insanely great. In 1984, Apple released the Macintosh. It was groundbreaking, a computer with a graphical interface that was unlike anything else. But sales didn't meet expectations. Behind the scenes, tensions grew between Jobs and Apple's board of directors. In 1985, the unthinkable happened. Steve Jobs was forced out of his own company. Imagine the heartbreak to be fired from the very thing you created. Later, Jobs would admit, "I was devastated. But it turned out to be the best thing that could have ever happened to me." After leaving Apple, Jobs started a new computer company called Next. The machines were powerful but too expensive to succeed commercially. Still, the software and ideas from Next would later play a key role in Apple's rebirth. Around the same time, Jobs bought a struggling animation studio called Pixar. Most people thought it was a mistake. But Jobs believed in the magic of storytelling mixed with technology. That belief paid off when Pixar released Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film. It became a worldwide hit, and Pixar went on to make some of the most beloved animated movies of all time. During this chapter of his life, Jobs changed too. Away from Apple, he matured as a leader and as a person. Without even knowing it, he was preparing himself for the greatest comeback in business history. By the late 1990s, Apple was on the verge of collapse. The company that once defined innovation was close to bankruptcy. In 1997, in an incredible twist, Apple acquired Next, and with it, Steve Jobs returned to the company he had started in his parents' garage. His comeback was nothing short of legendary. Jobs simplified Apple's messy product lineup, cut out the noise, and brought the company back to basics. In 1998, Apple released the colorful iMac, a computer that wasn't just useful but beautiful. It captured attention worldwide and marked the beginning of Apple's second rise. Then came the revolution. In 2001, the iPod changed how the world listened to music. In 2007, the iPhone redefined communication and became one of the most successful products in history. In 2010, the iPad launched a whole new category of devices. Jobs didn't just invent products. He reshaped entire industries: music, movies, communication, even retail. His secret was simple: he had an unmatched sense of what people would want before they even knew they wanted it. As he put it, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Apple events became cultural phenomena. Steve Jobs, in his black turtleneck, jeans, and sneakers, walking across the stage, saying those magical words, "One more thing." It wasn't just a product launch, it was theater. People didn't just buy devices, they bought into a vision of the future. But life isn't a straight line, even for visionaries. In 2003, Jobs was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. At first, he refused surgery, hoping alternative treatments would help. For years, he fought the disease while still running Apple, pouring his energy into creating the future. In 2005, he delivered his legendary commencement speech at Stanford University. In it, he shared 3 deeply personal stories about connecting the dots, about love and loss, and about death. One line stood out and became immortal: "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life." Those words have inspired millions of people to this day.